All right, welcome back to Genius. So let's talk about semantic HTML here. Okay, so we will be defining what semantic HTML is. Okay, so here semantic HTML refers to HTML that conveys meaning about the content. Okay, remember that whatever we are showing the users is just the content. But the thing is that we also have to let the browser know the meaning of the content, because if you let the browser know the meaning of the content you're giving out, the browser will display that content in a better way, and there are a lot of advantages. So this semantic HTML came around with HTML5. So elements are chosen based on the type of content they hold. So you cannot just come and say div or span or paragraph. No, you choose elements or HTML tag based on the content you want them to contain. Okay, it's not for styling, it's not for layout. It is, you choose elements based on the type of content you want them to hold. Now if that content you want them to hold have a special meaning, you have to use a special tag for that particular content. So example of non-semantic elements, you say now div. Here we are using the div for the header, but instead of using the div for the header, we have a header element that is semantic. Okay, so instead of using the div element, we use the header element that is semantic. We use the main element that's also semantic, and we use the footer that is also semantic. So the header element, the main element, this they clearly describe the rows. So when the browser sees the header element, the browser knows that, oh, this has to do with the header of the application, where the navbar will be an introductory welcome message. Okay, so the browser has a way of displaying this, and it has these semantic elements. They give extra meaning, they give extra importance to the content they contain. So but now look at, in the non-semantic, we are using div. All right, we are using div for our header, but instead of us using div, that is, div element is not a semantic element. So you should use the header element and the main element. Okay, basically your HTML page should basically contain, okay, so if I take these things out, okay, your HTML element should basically contain these um, three main sections. All right, header, okay, the main, and then the footer. Okay, do you understand? Look at what I have here. Okay, your I think I should take this style. Your HTML page basically should contain this. That is, this should be the structure in your body element. Instead of your body element, this should be your structure. And anything that has to do with maybe welcome page, hero section, the navigation, they should all be inside of the header element. Then anything that now has to do with the main content should be inside of the main element. Then anything that has to do with the footer should be in the footer element. With this, you have structured your HTML page to be very semantic. Okay. So why semantic element is important? For accessibility. We have been discussing accessibility, mentioning accessibility a lot of times here. Okay. Screen readers and assistive technologies, they rely on semantic tags to navigate content. All right. If you want to become a professional web developer and web designer, you should be using semantic elements. Don't just be using any div or anything. No, no, no. Make sure that the content of your web page is actually contained inside of semantic elements. I have shown you the three major. This is what your page should look like in the body element, the header, the main, and the footer, and everything. Now we put when we have any content that we put that content based on where they are supposed to be. Anything that has to do with navigation, anything that has to do with greet a welcome message, hero section should be in the header section. Anything that has to do with the main content should be in the main element, and then footer. Okay. So this helps screen readers and assistive technologies. So when you have nav, element, the nav element tells the users that this is a navigation menu. So instead of me to just come in here and I will say div, okay, I will say div, and then I can now put my UL. All right, then do my navigation bar inside of here. No, it shouldn't be that. There is a semantic element for navigation. It is the nav element. Okay, it's the nav element. Okay, then inside of this nav element, you can now have your UL, blah 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 blah. But anything that has to do with your navigation, your links should be inside of the nav element. So search engine optimization is another thing. When your HTML page is semantic, all right, search engines search engines understand your content better. And when you make search engines understand your content better, it will be easier for your content to be ranked by search engine. So when you use article, is another semantic element. The article signals an independent piece of content. So let's say you have a blog and then you have an independent piece of content in your blog. You should put it inside of the article. So maintainability and readability. These are importance of semantic element, accessibility, search engine optimization, maintainability, and readability. It's easier for developers to understand the structure. Now, if you see now that I have two major structures here, I have two major structures here. So it is easier for me to manage this code. I know that everything that has to do with the hero section, the navigation is inside the header. So whenever I want to make any changes, I know where to go to. Okay? So it reduces confusion in large projects, and then consistency is another thing. It provides a standard structure across web pages. Imagine that all your web pages are just semantic. In your body, you have header, you have menu, you have the footer. It's just amazing. Okay. So now these are different semantic elements. Now the header element, look at the purpose or the use case. Any content that is made for introduction should be in the header element. Site branding should be, if you have anything that any brand, anything that shows your brand as a company, okay, it should be on the header section. Navigation should be on the header section. Footer is another semantic element. The footer content, copyright, legal links should be in the footer. The main element contains the main content that is unique to the page. The main content contains the main element that is unique to the page. The section, we have section. Section is for semantic grouping of content. So instead of your main element, you might just have different sections. So for every section should be a unique theme for that section. So you can, instead of your main element, you should break it down into sections, and every section should have it should be a unique theme. Okay. All right. So now the article is another semantic element. When you have self-contained contents, no, when like in a blog post, you have a blog post, you have a news article, or just like in newspaper, you understand. Um, when you read the newspaper, you always see some content that they might not even have any relationship with what is being discussed in the newspaper, but you just see it there's something like advert or something like that. Okay. Now, aside are complementary content. The aside element is used for complementary content. So these are content that are complementary to the main content that you have. Sidebars as related links. Okay. So the nav is for navigation links for the site. The figure is for images, and the feed caption is for the caption for the images. Okay. So non-semantic element, look at it. We are using all divs here. It doesn't make sense. Okay. We are using div for the nav. We are using div for the main content. It doesn't make sense. All right. And we're also using div for the sidebar. No, there are specific elements that have been designed for them. So if you want to make it semantic, look at it now. The nav bar, the title of the page is inside of the header. And inside of the nav bar, we now have the links, the menu. Okay, so in the main section, we have articles, we have aside, okay, all right. So, and in the footer, we have the copyright. So, but notice how the semantic version communicates meaning to both humans and machines. So, see, if you have if you're using, see, from now on, don't you ever put any content in your web page that it does not have a semantic element with it. All your content should have meaning, right? So you should use the appropriate semantic element for it. Okay. So best practices, use semantic elements whenever possible. Instead of using div or span, all right, use what's it called again? Section. All right. Section is when you want to, of course, your content will have different themes. So if for each theme you're going to have use the section, but don't worry, as you go on, you practice it, you get to understand better. There should only be one main element in your page. There's only one main element in your page. Your page should contain only one main element. There should not be two of it. It should only be one. Then you should your HTML page should also have hierarchies of H1, H2, H3. H1 is you can only have one H1 on that HTML page. There should only be one H1. Then for each section, for each theme, all right, you can now have H2. Then H3 are always inside of H2. Okay. Use section for thematic groups and articles for independent content. All right. Combine semantic HTML with area rows if necessary for accessibility. Don't worry, we'll still talk about accessibility in details. So now let's create a basic web page using the header, the main, and the footer. Okay. The header contains the site title, the main contains the main content, and the footer contains the copyright info. So instead of us to do this, you can convert it to, so you can see that the first div is talking about welcome. So what should be used there is the header element. Now, the other div is talking about the menu, which is the navigation links. What should be used there is the nav element, and this nav element should be inside of the header element. Then this ID middle is actually should be the main element because that's the main blog post, and then the copyright should be in the footer. So you can practice this yourself. Okay. So thank you very much, and then I'll see you in the next class.